Today we are building one of the cheapest possible brand new parts builds using only Amazon Prime parts. Just gonna be honest. Do I recommend doing this type of build? Absolutely not. Like, in no circumstance would I say you should build this PC. The reason why we're building this PC is to show, A, that it's probably not a good idea, but at the same time, B, it's still gonna equate to a decent 1080p gaming experience. But you could do so much better if you make better choices, preferably with a used graphics card. So starting off, our brand new parts, cheapest Amazon PC. We have the Ryzen 3 4100. I think I've used this CPU one time before. It costs, hold on, $71. Ew. Like I said, I do not recommend it. This is just the cheapest it gets on Amazon. It's much cheaper than the 5500. Exactly. I would have loved to use a 5500. But we don't have that option when we're going with the cheapest possible Amazon PC. $77 for a Ryzen 3 4100. We're going to be plugging that into a Gigabyte A520M V2. Ryzen 5000 desktop ready. We don't even need that. Actually, I think we do. I think the BIOS still needs updated, but regardless. This was literally the cheapest possible AM4 motherboard when I was buying this. Pretty sure it only has two RAM slots. Not a single bell nor whistle. No BIOS flashback. It does have solid capacitors though. Thankfully. That is a feature that I've been really looking for lately. Solid capacitors. As opposed to liquid capacitors. And it's also NVMe ready, which is perfect. I'm really glad that they designated that this is NVMe ready. Okay. That's our CPU. This is our RAM. This is the Don't judge. This is the cheapest kit of RAM I could find on Amazon. It is the Silicon Power. There's no way this has an actual name. No name. This is just the Silicon Power 16 gigabyte DDR4. It is actually a 3200 megahertz, which isn't terrible. I believe the CL rating is not good. CL22. That's not ideal at all. How much is this? $22. CL22 for $22. This is the cheapest kit I could find on Amazon. For the SSD, I at one point said that I would never do this ever again, but here we are. This is a 512 gigabyte Team Group MP33. Could I have gone cheaper? Yes. I could have got like a 128. I'm not going to do that. 512 is the cheapest reasonable SSD that I could find. The MP33. This was $27. Brand new on Amazon. Okay. Again, I don't recommend this. For the power supply, this is the one thing I do recommend. This is actually pretty solid. This is the 600 watt Apivia Prestige. Remember, with power supplies, it is not about the brand. It is about the model. Apivia is not known for reliable power supplies by any stretch of the imagination. You cannot just assume that Apivia power supplies are good nor bad. This Prestige model is probably their best one. It's a 600 watt, 80 plus gold, and most importantly, tier C on the power supply tier list, on the PSU tier list, on zttbuildhelp.com. Tier C. So for $51, it's actually not terrible. Could I have gone cheaper? Yes. But gone are the days of me using a tier D, E, or F power supply. We haven't done that in like 5 years. This was the cheapest tier C power supply on Amazon. So that's why I did it. You could have gone a tad bit cheaper, but not me. I'm not going to do that. For our case, this one I do recommend as well. This is actually a good pick. We've used it several times now. This is the Okinos Aqua 3 Air. I have actually not used the Air before, but we've certainly used Okinos cases and the Aqua 3 plenty of times. But this Aqua 3 Air comes with no RGB, but 3 pre-installed 120mm black fans. This is a negative airflow setup case. All of the fans are set to exhaust. So instead of forcing air with intake fans, it's negative pressure. So it's basically just trying to suck in fresh air from any place it can, and then exhaust it out the top and out the back. Negative airflow setup. We've tested the Aqua 3 plenty of times, especially with budget hardware. It has no problem cooling at all. We will not have a cooling issue with this in the slightest. It also looks super clean. It's still fish tank, and it was 60 bucks. 60 bucks. Anti-RGB build. We don't get RGB when we're buying as cheap as possible. Could I have gone cheaper? Yeah, there's like some $56 cases out there on Amazon. They all suck. This is the best one, around the $60 price. Well, I shouldn't say the best. Okinos has other options, but this is the one that I chose. And then lastly, this is a GPU that we've talked about quite a lot over the years. This is the MSI Ventus RTX 3050. Not to be confused with the 12GB version. Or no, sorry, not 12. The 8GB version. No, this is the 6GB RTX 3050. I paid $185 for it, which is the exact reason why I don't recommend this GPU. But there is no RX 6600 at $185, brand new right now. So this was the best we could do. There's the total parts list. $479. All brand new parts. 4100, 16 gigs of RAM, 500 gigabyte SSD, Aqua 3, and the RTX 3050. $479, brand new. Do you think the 9070 and the XT prices will increase? They are definitely increasing. Retailers have already confirmed that the prices we saw today were only the prices for the first batch of those GPUs. The prices are going to go up after this first batch, which are already sold out. Here is our Ryzen 3 4100, and here is the CPU cooler we're going to be using. So with AM4, we're going to unlatch it right there. We're going to rotate to make sure our gold triangle fits this tiny... They actually don't make this super obvious like they used to. It used to be like a big gold arrow. Now it's just a tiny white arrow that you can barely see. But with AM4, the Ryzen text is literally always rotated 90 degrees clockwise, like that. I'll put that in there. Make sure all the pins go in there. It cannot move at all. We're gonna latch that down. Zero force on AM4 latching system. And our CPU is now installed. Rotate our motherboard a little bit. We will install our embarrassing DDR4 silicone power sticks again, as cheap as possible on Amazon. No heat spreader necessary. Just all black action here. Actually, this side of the RAM doesn't look terrible. I mean, that's the definition of as clean as it gets. There's nothing on there at all. That's not bad. No branding. Another positive. No branding. Now we have our 500 gigabyte Team Group MP33. If I can get it out of the plastic. Por favor. Hello. There we go. For this motherboard, it actually is fancy. We don't have to use an M.2 screw. We just pull out this little, oh my god, that little plastic tab right there. We put in the SSD into the slot right here, push it down, and then just push that plastic tab back in its place, and the SSD is now secure. And then finally for our CPU cooler, here we're going to do a little work. We're going to put a little cheap motherboard design. No, the plastic is actually nice. That's better than using a screw. For the CPU cooler though, we're gonna do a little action here. So by default, this is the one thing that I've never understood. I have never understood this about AM4 CPU coolers. It is extremely frustrating. It's been like this for almost a decade, the entire lifespan of AM4. By default, if you were to install this, it would look like this, with the AMD logo rotated at 9 o'clock. You could install it like this, but then the cable routing is a little bit weird. This is normally how people do it. Actually, this way doesn't look... cable routing, that's actually not terrible. But either way, it can only be like this, or it can only be like this. Why does AMD not have this rotated towards the top by default? That way, like, the letters actually line up and are legible. I have no idea. But this is how you fix that. It's a little bit of work, unfortunately. First, we're going to flip it upside down. And we're going to get a tiny screwdriver and unscrew these two little screws. Depending on what version of the stock cooler it comes with, there's several different versions. It's either going to be one screw or two screws. This one has two screws. So we'll remove those two screws. And then from there, we can... I put my thumbs in the center, and then these fingers are going to, like, lift out and over. Like that. That way we can pop this off. If you wanted to paint the shroud of your CPU cooler, that's exactly how you would do it. Pop it off. Just like that. Now, we got to switch over to a bigger screw bit, and we have to unscrew these 4 screws to completely remove the fan assembly off of the heatsink so we can rotate it. Hopefully you guys are tracking. So we'll uninstall one screw, 2 screws. This is screw number 3. And then this is screw number 4. So now, I'm not going to rotate it yet. This is how it would be by default, or like this. The AMD logo is where these 2 screw holes are. So we can pick this up and then just rotate this 90 degrees and then reinstall it on top of the heatsink. I don't know why they don't do that by default. It makes 0 sense to me. If I started working at AMD, this would be the #1 thing on my priority list. But yeah, you just... Now we're going to screw all these back down and we'll be good to go. Did you guys all track that? Are we good to go? Would that make sense? You definitely don't have to do this either. This is just if you value aesthetics at an elite level. Noted? We're good to go? Why would you do that? Because a lot of people don't like the text in products or like literally anything to be messed up like that. We like our stuff looking clean, you know? It's just it's attention to detail. You certainly do not have to do it. It's just a little bit of attention to detail. Oh, why would they ruin the aesthetic? I have no idea. It makes no sense. I honestly think it was just an oversight, and then they just never bothered to care. Because if I can do it like this very easily, then why don't they just do it from the factory? So I'm going to make sure that all 4 of those screws are tight. And now we have those little screw holes up at the top, and I can install the CPU like this. I'm just going to put this back on, and you kind of like bend the the circle outward. That way it goes up and around and clicks into place. You definitely do not need to reinstall those 2 screws right here. I'm just going to throw those away. That plastic shroud is absolutely not going anywhere. And there we go. Now we'll be able to install this on our motherboard with the AMD logo up top. So now the very last thing we got to do for the motherboard prep is we do have to uninstall these plastic bridges that come on every AM4 motherboard. We do not need those for our stock CPU cooler. We do need the back plate that these were screwed into, because that's what we're going to use for the CPU cooler. We will unscrew those, and then if I were to lift this motherboard up, here's the back plate. Just leave that on there. Just leave that on the box. That way they come out there, and then that's what these 4 screws are gonna screw into. The stock Ryzen CPU cooler does come with thermal paste. I am just gonna leave that on there. There's no plastic on it. Line up all 4 of these screws with our now AMD logo up at the top. I'm gonna just give these like a little quarter turn to make sure I'm evenly applying pressure. Sometimes you do gotta apply a good amount of pressure on this stock CPU cooler to get it to dig into that backplate. And then once all 4 of them are at least quarter turned, then I can fully tighten them, continuing the star pattern to apply nice even pressure across the CPU. One more down here. Like that. And then I'm going to take the CPU cooler, or the fan PWM connector right there. I'm going to take this cable and just slide it, tuck it in under here right next to the RAM sticks. That way we don't see it. Like that. Wow, those RAM sticks are kind of sharp. And then there we go. Our motherboard prep is now complete. All right, here's our Apivia Prestige. We don't have any cable extensions. This is a non-modular power supply. There is going to be 0 prep outside of unboxing it. And then we'll be good to go. And untwist tying it. Do you have Bamboo Studio on your PC? Yeah. Hello indirectly from Brazil? Hello. VPN maybe? Alright. Here's our Prestige. The Prestige does have big, bulky, braided cables. Good for quality, not great for cable management. Trying to find a spot for this beefy bundle of cables isn't the most fun thing, but we will make do. One thing that I am going to do, actually, just to try to help with cable management a little bit, is let's get our... Oh, wow. Yeah, we don't even need those. We only need a 4+4. That's not 4+4. We only need a 4+4 and our 24 pin for this build. That's it. We don't need anything else. We can actually zip tie... Zoom that out a little bit. We can actually zip tie this extra bundle. Or not zip tie. We can just use the twist tie that it came with. That way we don't have to worry about this bundle. We only need these 2 cables. That way in the case, these aren't all over the place. I hated cable management with that PSU. This is the one downfall of it. Yep. Again, this is the absolute best value tier C budget power supply that you can get. And it's been like that for probably 2 years now. The Apivia Prestige 600 watt. Tier C. But yeah, the bundle of cables is not fun. But since this is such a basic build, it shouldn't be that big of an issue. All right. Now we got our case. Again, this is the Okinos Air. Okinos Aqua 3 Air. Sorry. $60. Micro ATX. Comes pre-installed with 3 all-black, non-ARGB fans. It is a negative airflow setup. So all of these fans are configured for exhaust. It does work. I've used this plenty of times with budget hardware. No cooling issues whatsoever. And again, I say this almost every time, but Okinos comes up super clutch with the with the USB-C cable. We do not have a USB-C connector on our motherboard, so we can't use it. But I love that Okinos makes this a priority and includes this, because you do not see this in 95% of budget cases like that. So that's very cool. It just doesn't help us today. All right. Now we'll get our IO shield first. Don't want to forget that. I have that same case. Nice. Average Chelsea fan with another $2 super chat says, I have that same exact case. Wow. Couple of you with this case. No surprises there. No surprises. This has been rock solid for budget builds. I don't even think I need extra standoffs with this. This is a tiny motherboard, man. I think this has all of the standoffs that we need. Yeah. Yeah, it does. We're gonna have a with the small motherboard, we're gonna have a little bit longer of a route for that cable right there, but it's all good. It's all good. How much was it? $60. I think I have seen it for sale less than that too. It is the Okinos Okinos Aqua 3 Air. There is also an Okinos Aqua 3, just the normal one that has 3 ARGB fans. This is the Aqua 3 Air though, which is just all black. What is the total cost of the PC? $479. All brand new parts on Amazon. If you're joining late, I do not recommend this is how you spend $497 or $79. The purpose is for a YouTube video where we're going to explain all of that. This was just the cheapest Amazon PC possible. Is that an LTT screwdriver? Yes, it is. I gotta save my voice. Oh my god. That was a crazy yap session. I didn't even like really go into tangents. You guys were just coming in hot with the sub messages, the YouTube super chat messages, the biddies. I mean, my voice is it's gonna be hurting tomorrow. I definitely got to do some lemon ginger tea before I go to sleep tonight. Have you heard about... No, I have not. Is that a case manufacturer? I have not seen them. Okay. There we go. Motherboard is connected. Or screwed in, I should say. Now we're going to connect the case's cables. I do have to untwist tie this here. This twist tie... Yeah, that's not going to be quite enough slack. So I will untwist tie that a little bit. I'm actually going to twist tie this. Bend that USB-C connector a little bit because we don't need that. Retwist tie it. Now we have a little bit more slack for all of these cables. Gonna plug in the USB 3.0 right there at the front. We have all of these guys right here. The power LED, power switch, and reset switch, which we typically don't have. But we do because there's no RGB action here. Oh my god, our front panel connector is in a very, very, very weird spot on this motherboard. My goodness. That is just uncomfortable. This white header right here is for the front panel connector. I have never seen that before in my life. It is 99% of the time down in the right hand, the bottom right corner. This right here is the front panel connector. That That is how budget this motherboard is. Oh my god, that's so weird. Not a big deal. Especially since I can just fit them all right up through here. But it is just weird. And now my bearings are all jacked up because now I'm looking at this sideways. But all will be well. Boom. There we go. That's plugged in. And then the last one is HD audio. Hopefully that's in the normal spot. Yeah, that's in the normal bottom left corner of the motherboard. Gonna plug that in. And then all of the... Oh, we got one more. We got a PWM connector. Actually, that's not PWM. Just a 3-pin fan header. Connector, I should say. Oh my god, there is one. Oh my god, I was freaking out. I didn't think there was a single... Oh my god, there's one fan header. It's in a terrible spot. It's right here. There's a single fan header on this motherboard. And it's right there. It's awful. That's awful. I don't think we have a long enough cable. No, but I think I have an extension. This is my little handy bag of goodies here. Yeah, we'll use one of these. This is just a 12-inch PWN fan extension. You wouldn't absolutely need this. Like, you could plug this in, but then it's daisy chained and it won't look as good. So I'm just gonna use one of those. That wraps up and around like this. Oops, sorry. And then I can just plug this in like that. This bundle of cable up here are the three fans that were pre-installed that are already daisy chained. We can just do that real quick and then we'll be fine. I think I'm just going to stuff all of this down here like that. And I don't think we'll really have an issue. We can zip tie this real quick. And that should be all we need. You are a guru. I mean, I'll agree with that. I'll humbly agree to that. All right, cut that zip tie. And then now we can install our motherboard. Or, sorry, power supply. Gonna put that face down. We got the fan. Put that face down so it can intake fresh air from underneath the case. Just like that. And then I'm gonna use the 4 screws that it came with. Oh, wow. These are fancy screws. Wow. I don't remember a Pivia doing this. Thumb screws. No, that can't be right. Is it? Yeah, I think they did come with these. Or with... Yeah, they were in the bag. How... I want to say that they were the... I'm going to use them for the case. I'm not going to use thumb screws for the power supply. If a Pivia actually... No. I got the case screws right here. Wow. It did come with that. A power supply with thumb screws. I don't think I've seen that. Even though I've used... I probably have. I'm just brain farting, but... I've used the Pivia like dozens of times. I don't remember that at all, though. Do giveaway points reset after every giveaway? Yes, they have to, man. As much as I would like for some of you guys to increase your chances of winning, we've been doing this for over a year. If I didn't reset them, then people that have been watching for a year would have a way higher chance of winning, and everybody new would have like virtually no chance. So yeah, we reset them every month. I think that's the most fair way to do it. There's pros and cons. How do you enter the giveaway? Type in ! Giveaway. Log in with Twitch. You should be able to figure it out from there. If you really need help, type in !giveaway help. All right, so first I'm going to take that bundle that we twist tied, and I'm just going to put that in the 3.5-inch hard drive tray in the PSU basement, because we do not need any of that. Gonna stuff it all in there. Again, these are thick cables, and we have a lot of them since our GPU doesn't need power cables. So even this bundle twist tied is barely fitting in here, which is entertaining. But there we go. Now we have our 24 pin. Gonna route that up. This is gonna be the ugliest thing of this build. The Okinos Aqua 3 has a large space here in between where the cable comes out and the motherboard, where the motherboard connects. So we're really gonna, it's a pretty long, it's only worse because our motherboard is a very slim motherboard. But not a big deal, especially with a build that costs what this costs. And then finally we have our 4+4. Then I'm gonna route up and through here. This is definitely a little bit difficult because it has fans. We got all this fan action and not a lot of wiggle room at all. But that is connected. And then, believe it or not, that's about it, ladies and gentlemen. I told you this build, this build was not going to take long. What was that? Before we install the graphics card, I'm going to do a little, maybe 3 total zip ties and we'll be done. How do you feel about George Pickens? I absolutely love his ability. Little concerned by his diva-ness. Steelers have a consistent track record of drafting diva wide receivers. George Pickens is definitely can definitely be one of them, but when he gets dialed in, I mean, he is just insane. If the Steelers would provide him with a good quarterback, I think he would definitely be a top 5 receiver in the league. Definitely has the hands, athleticism, etc. I think he has to figure out the mental game to truly be elite. And I think he has the potential to do it. But we will see. All right, there's our cable management. Super clean. Let's install our back panel now. What do you guys think of George Pickens? I'm all in on Justin Fields, man. I really hope that they also go all in on Justin Fields. How does this? Ugh. These are the breakaway tabs. We just definitely don't want to break the wrong ones. There we go. Oh, so this is what I was talking about. I don't know how many of you saw my video or heard me talk about this before, but when you, this is exactly what I'm talking about right here. Check this out. Whenever you use these we got to snooze this ab. Snooze, snooze, snooze. Whenever you are using a budget case, it will typically come with the breakaway PCIe adapters right here. You have to physically wiggle them back and forth to break them off of there. And it is highly recommended to do that before you install your motherboard for this exact reason. There is almost always capacitors right next to that. So when I do this back and forth wiggle action, I have to be super careful. And this one is like as bad as it gets because it oh my God, it hits that capacitor like right away. And I don't think that I can bend it outward. So like this, I mean, this is gonna require some serious finesse here. Let me remove this, give myself enough space. But this is why I always recommend. Yeah, wow, this is gonna be really tough not to break this. Just very small wiggle movements, man. This I'm actually kind of worried about. So what else the other thing I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to, I can't really do this while showing you on camera. The angle's not going to be right, but I'm going to try to bend the breakaway PCIe bracket upwards so it, I don't even know if I can do this. Yeah, I mean, it's hitting I've hit the capacitor like 3 times already. Let me, yeah, I mean, this is probably the worst case scenario. I'm glad we're finally going through this. I'm going to try to use a screwdriver. Wow, that's tough. To try to bend this upward away from the capacitor, but there's just no, it is so close. Wow. How do I want to do this? There's like no room to bend this. I don't know how well. I want to make sure I'm showing this to you guys. I mean, those capacitors are right there. They are right there, man. Can't bend it outward. This is tough. I don't think oh, I got it. Okay. All right, so I have successfully bent the PCIe bracket up and towards me. Try and get it so you can see it. That way it is away from the capacitor. Can you see that? There you go. Now I have plenty of room to wiggle that back and forth without hitting anything. That is exactly why I say that in every video. This is how it came out. That's crazy. The ideal thing to do is you don't have to install the motherboard. Just kind of set the motherboard in there real quickly. Look at where the PCIe bracket is, or I'm sorry, where the GPU 16X PCIe slot is. Figure out which brackets you have to remove. Just pull the motherboard out, break them off, and then install the motherboard. That is ideal. The hard part is just remembering to do that. This one's got plenty of clearance. That one can just break off, just like that. That's how the process should go if you don't have those capacitors there. Very, very simple. But yeah, that's exactly why I tell you guys that all the time. Why does it feel like this already happened? Because I say it every single time. This was just the first time where it was really bad. Why not take them all out? Because then you'll be left with a huge gap there, and it'll not only sacrifice your airflow, but it will look crazy. You don't want just a big hole in your PC case. All right, so you're gonna install the 3050. Just like that. Gonna get some screws for it. Should be good. Just take one off? No, you gotta take 2 off, man. The GPU won't... You won't be able to install the GPU without bending something if you don't take them both off. It's a 2-slot GPU. Oh yeah, I always forget. Okinos uses the weird screws for their GPU slots. That card is ugly. It is not a good-looking card. You are correct. That is correct. All right, I think it's this screw. Okinos, for whatever reason, their screw slots for securing the GPU is not this. No, that's not it. Is not the standard screw. I don't know if they know this. I talk about this as well every single time. There we go. Got one secured. Gonna secure the other one. GPU. Oh, almost lost. Oh. So unnecessary. Thankfully, this is magnetic. I don't know if that'll... Oh my god. This is just very typical things going wrong. The screw bit on the screwdriver fell into the GPU. That's such an unnecessary complication in the build. I think I'll be able to flip the build upside down and it'll fall out, but I'm not 100% sure. So unnecessary. Let's clean up before we do that, though. The drill bit is inside the graphics card. The drill bit is like right in there. Let's try to, I don't know. I guess just try to... Oh, there we go. Bang! Let's go. That's out. We just had to put the PC upside down. No big deal. It's all good. It's all good. Put this little cover back on. Screw in the screw, and then we're done. Boom. There we go. That is the $479 all Amazon brand new parts PC. It actually doesn't look terrible. It's all black. I mean, it's pretty minimal. That GPU is pretty ugly, I'll give you that. But other than that, it's, yeah, actually clean. I agree. Actually clean. If you are joining late, no, I do not recommend you build this PC at all. This is a Ryzen 3 4100, 16 gigs of CL22 DDR4, a 512 gigabyte SSD, and an RTX 3050 6 gigabyte. I do not recommend you buy this or build this. But if you, for whatever reason, only wanted to buy from Amazon and buy all new parts and make it as cheap as possible, this is what you'd be looking at most likely.